Welcome to Agriculture Science 465, a class taught at Montana State University by Florence Dunkel. For this week, the class read Creating a World Without Poverty by Muhammad Yunus.
Who is Yunus?
He is an economist from
Yes.
Bangladesh,
Yes.
and also an educator, a professor,
Yeah.
and a Nobel Peace Prize winner.
I remember the recipient. Let's go to directly to the Grameen banks. What does the word Grameen mean?
Village.
Village. And tell me about the Grameen banks a little bit.
They set up groups of loan recipients, and so the other members of the group are responsible for keeping the other members paying. And if one of the members doesn't pay, then all of the members of the group are in default. And then they go around weekly with their loan collectors and they collect loans from the locals.
There's another part of it, and that's what are those? It's actually 16 decisions. What are those 16 decisions?
Well, he mentioned 3 of them in here. The only one I remember is making your kids go to school. So you have to, as a recipient of the loan, agree to these terms, and some of those terms are not directly related to the loan.
They're related to a healthy living style.
I was just thinking about this third question here. What do you really care about? It kind of made me look back to this reading. He introduces all his dreams at the beginning of the reading. And one of his dreams was, oh, no money, no currency, everything's going to be la-di-da. And then his whole project is completely focused on currency. And that seems like a big disconnect between a quality or a value that he holds and something that he's actually acting on it. Just, I don't know.
He's basically basing the, removal of poverty on a capitalist system. I'm going to give you a little bit of money, you go out and work and get a little bit of money. There's people there with jobs just can't afford stuff. There's other people that are looking for jobs. But then we've got, I'd say it's a minority, but a section of people that do not want a job, haven't had a job in forever, and have no intention of getting a job. There's always going to be poverty as long as there's people
That want to have that lifestyle.
Right.
Then I think we have to look at the definition of poverty. Those people that you're talking about that want to live without a job and without a home and without a lot of currency, that's a choice. Poverty, we need to define it. We probably need to redefine it right now, in fact.
I don't know, I kind of think it's hard to think it, we need to redefine poverty for this reading, this discussion, but poverty is something that the definition constantly changes depending on culture and values.
But if you think about it from the holistic standpoint, some people focus on different parts more than others. Parts of the community, maybe anthropologists are so concerned with that quality of life, maybe it's from the futurist perspective, but really the quality of life and looking at the creation of meaning and how people define their life and wealth and the webs of meaning that they spin in their communities.
I kind of have been thinking about Easterly a lot. There was a clear definition of the first tragedy and the second tragedy with Easterly. The first one for him was, I think, healthcare and
We're saying that poverty can change amongst societies or cultures, but is there any culture or society that would say that doesn't have enough food that would say that they're not in poverty?
Yeah, is food security defined by nutritional content or amount or availability or accessibility?
I think that the UN defines it as nutritional quality.
Whose place is it to come into the community and say this is one of your ethnic foods that you're very comfortable eating, but it's not nutritious, so therefore you're food secure, even though you're food insecure, even though you have tons of it.
Yeah, it's not our place to do that.
Yeah, it seems like there are a lot of toes that could be stepped on.
Yeah, so that's why we all have a problem with the uniformity that Eunice was suggesting. Let's talk about Sinombole. It's a social system. To be part of the group, it isn't cool to accumulate.
The generation of young men are leaving to the cities, you said?
Yeah, they don't seem to be around. People your age are not.
I wouldn't want her to put Sinombole up on a pedestal and say that they live without greed. doesn't, or as someone who's doesn't have much capitalism culture isn't greedy, because I think it can take all different forms. Like the right to eat first, in a way, is sort of this greedy need to survive.
That way of thinking doesn't get a ton of positive feedback in white society. And I'm just going off on my own editorial, but for me, it's been important to consider that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Somebody were.
This is so good. So good.
Well, this is potatoes, organic potatoes made in our garden. The dessert is invented in this department. It's made from not wheat, but timothy. Timothy is a grass. More nutritious, I think, than wheat. But $1 a day is, it's an okay life if you're a subsistence farmer.
Can $1 buy a lot more in other countries, obviously, than it can in America?
Of course. Well, I wonder if it's really set up that open and friendly, because I don't know if there's any Al Capones over there, but that looked like a great setup to knock somebody off.
It looks like a really easy opportunity for corruption.
Yep.
But the way I see it working with the little kids in Sonambole is they almost don't keep track. This is an oral-based culture, so they remember how much they owe you, how much everybody gives. But like Aite said, remember, the strength of Africa is in the village. But it's not inability to understand, it's that nobody's taken the time to teach in the way that it can be understood. That's what's important. It's not to give money, but to learn how to gain trust and then teach in a way that these peoples can understand it with respect. That's the problem. There's been such a lack of respect. You're going to take Eunice's philosophy, his concepts of alleviating poverty, and apply it to Sonambole. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't apply his concepts to Sonambole, just because, I mean, and like his main concept is money, and so they do fine without it, so I don't see what the point would be to bring them a microloan system when they have it figured out.
You see here the, not necessarily a conundrum, but there's a built-in problem here with the Sonamboleans. I don't know if there might be in other communities too, but I think the question was, how would you, if you were Eunice, what would you say to the villagers in Sonambole? How would Eunice speak to you, Alex and Tara, and say, you know, when you go to work in Sonambole, I suggest you do this?
He would probably suggest a bank or a finance loan for them to help them further their handicraft business. I mean, that would probably be his biggest push, was to be able to help them market it, and maybe he would implement a system of where they could make more money to buy more cattle or raise more chickens.
Eunice might say is, okay, if you take the crickets or grasshoppers or you're raising, or big termites, you can feed those to the chickens and you can sell the chickens. Is Eunice using the holistic process?
It's not about looking at what other cultures are.
What a lot of other community-based projects do, but again, it is kind of top-down in a way of managing money and, I guess, community welfare, community futures, and then ultimately, like, resources like humans, ingenuity, like that's now all managed from this bank.
What I thought, as he was talking about, is just like in the social business, your goal is to make money, but you're also going to do right to others. But your goal is to make money.
This is really, really getting interesting. Let's bring in these other communities now. Let's go Northern Cheyenne.
The only thing I can come up with to do is to, loan them money to start a handicraft business because, again, if they're going to grow vegetables, they're not going to sell it to each other. There's not much market demand for it. There has to be something that they can export. Native American jewelry is relatively popular. So, I mean, anything to sell their culture. I mean, the Tibetans do a great job with it, and they're able to feed a huge refugee population off of the selling of their religion and culture.
Do you want to explain the community a little bit,
Scholarship.
Coleman?
Northern Cheyenne.
Yeah.
Big issues facing the community are diabetes and obesity, among other things. There's poverty, there's
Okay, so how would Eunice then talk to the community in Northern Cheyenne?
Bring an idea and concept of growing your own food to the community, local food. So I don't know, maybe Eunice would suggest some sort of microloan system to get the greenhouse off the ground, because right now it's not a business, it's just an education.
Has Eunice ever done any large-scale thing where he takes like 20 people and gives them all microloans so that they can go together and buy shares or something? Say they want to buy the grocery store in Landgear, so he takes 20 people and says, I'm going to give you X amount, you X amount, and now you're all, equal shareholders in this business.
I don't know whether he would want to go at that higher level, to buy a big piece of equipment or to buy a store.
He's such a success story when you read his numbers. So he's either cooking the books and getting outside donations the whole time, or there's something that is not easy to see that makes it incredibly successful.
When we came to this country, there was it was called the Society of Aragona, and they would give loans and they would give insurance. And Eunice hadn't even been born yet.
Is there corruption, or is it really so great it appears to be like the Grameen Bank specifically? There's still room for corruption.
That's what he blames, sorry. The recent critique of micro-lending that has come up, he blames on corrupt individuals attempting to make more money than is fair off of the poor people, and of course distances himself from those individuals.
So if this is such a great idea, why hasn't it been taken to other countries?
It has, it's in one of the
It
other
has.
countries.
It has.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you
okay.
go in the, I don't know, you've heard of Whole Foods, but it's the biggest
Yeah.
natural grocer in the country.
Yeah, we've
And they
also-
always solicit micro-lending donations through the register lines these days. So, I mean, I'm wondering almost if they, in some ways, start to qualify as this social business that he's talking about, because they have like the highest employment satisfaction of any, employer in the country, like year after year. They have the highest wages for the regular amount of, unskilled labor or semi-skilled labor that any company has, and all these other interesting things.
There are certain initiatives that are kind of rolling, and part of that is potential marketing things that are related to certain food movements, and then some are related to foundations they support or NGOs they support as a social cause. So it's totally embedded into the fabric of the business.
But there isn't any relationship between Whole Foods and some kind of contribution to other people in other countries.
There is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they have, and they even mentioned it, I guess all over online. They must have one of the largest micro-lending organizations nowadays, because everywhere you read micro-lending, they like to mention Whole Foods nowadays. So that's where I first heard about micro-lending. I mean, how many times was I asked to give I probably gave a donation to it many times too, so that's why I just know that they have so many grocery stores in Denver. I mean, they got 8 of them or something, so.
Okay, so did this whole idea of taking these concepts, and Eunice is the last of the 10 actually, there's 9 and then there's your individual one for your community of focus, actually trying to take his concept, sort of play in his role, and apply it 2 places, to you yourself if you work in the community you work in, and then to the community itself. That's clear. Yeah. Okay, that's good. So I think we can